talking to Candice Duggar of bulliedbrokenredeemed.com,
Mhm.
who is an expert, unwillingly, I suspect, in bullying. And we would like to, we were talking in the last segment about how extensive the problem of bullying is and how it's way more serious than most parents realize.
Mhm.
One of the things that we encourage parents to notice changes of personality and behavior in their child.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a
uh,
big one. That's a big one. So there's several things just to kind of give you warning signs. If you're finding your kids are having the stomach aches, they don't want to go to co-op because they happen to be sick, or they're not wanting to go to school because they're having stomach aches and headaches and other gastrointestinal issues. Are they having nightmares? Have they reverted back and started maybe bedwetting? Are you seeing behavior signs that you didn't see there that are creeping up? Are they removing themselves from the family? Are they isolating? More? Are they coming home withdrawing? Now, and it gets tricky because our tweens and preteens sometimes like to just do that
pretty
anyway.
normal during the preteen.
Very normal.
Tween
but you'll
stage.
Know, right? And to give you an idea.
But whether they're bullied or not, if they are exhibiting those behaviors in the tween preteen stage, the answer is not to back off. The answer is to press in, to reach out, to develop relationship, to listen. And if they're not being bullied, that will build your relationship. If they are being bullied, it will build your relationship and open the door for you to help them.
Mm-hmm. It's a big one. And so when we're talking, to give you an idea, we knew my son's 7th grade, he's at school. We had a kind of a happy-go-lucky kid to the tween that you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe this is normal. They start dressing differently. They're starting acting differently. I saw some behaviors that became really concerning for me, and trying to press in more and more to that to see what was going on. And Guys, it wasn't until my son was homeschooled. I mean, we pulled him out, knew something was wrong. He was kind of on board because he was so miserable. But homeschooling, it wasn't until somewhere between 7 to 9 months that he was home with us and had enough trust to really even share with us so much that was going on. We knew a little, just a little. But when we started to uncover what the abuse was that he was dealing with, I just almost couldn't believe it. And so parents, I want to give you guys, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you'll get to see a few little things we won't kind of be able to do on podcast, but I'll still try to make sure I articulate it very well. One of the biggest things when your kids come to you, 70% are never going to tell you. And if they give you anything, I mean, a droplet of a friend sending them texts that are hurtful, your response to that in the beginning is going to be so important. And so calmly pay attention to your body language, pay attention to your response, pay attention to your words. Don't blame them like, well, what did you do first, right? Pause, take that pause and say, wow, that must be hard. Would you tell me more? That's a great way to ask for more. Give them permission to talk, because they're going to start sharing, if they start sharing gifts with you. Treasures, little treasures to them that are deep, dark personal secrets that they're terrified of. Their biggest reason normally is that you're going to run off half-cocked, like mama bear, to the school. You're going to run off to the church. You're going to run off to other places to try to solve it. When in reality, if that's your first response, you may end up making the situation worse for the child dealing with retaliation bullying. And so assure them you're going to be there.
This is why we often see kids raise what we call a trial balloon. They will tell you something that is a tiny piece of what they're going through. And it may not even make much sense.
Yeah, it may not be something that's even particularly relevant, but it's like, I'm going to give them a little bit and see how they react before I start to unload the whole bag.
And it might not even be something
Are you a safe place?
Yeah,
Are you a safe person I can trust to that's going to also, I mean, these were broken, hurting people. I mean, everybody has a lot of extent there, but these children are dealing with so much more emotions and hormones and just their personal story. How are we responding to them in pain? Are we blowing it off? Are we like, oh, suck it up? Are we telling them, you need to learn to defend yourself? How are we responding to somebody in pain? Just the same analogy. We do not tell a woman who's been abused, go back home and suck it up and learn to deal with it. We don't do that, but in this case we do, right? We have to think through some of the rationale we're giving our kids.
I want to encourage parents to take it seriously if your child shares a small thing like about a child teasing them and something that you would normally, it's easy to say, oh, just shake it off. But that may be the small piece that they're telling you before they tell you the big thing. And so anytime your child tells you something that hurt them, your first response has got to be, I am so sorry, that must have really hurt. And then press in and find out if that's the whole story before you tell them to shake it off.
Because there could be a whole lot more to that. And the underlying fear and shame, and the devil can want to get in and work all kinds of crazy ways to make us feel that it was our fault and we're to blame and shameful. And if a parent or a loved one or a teacher reinforces that, it can really just compound the issue.
Well, and we've seen that with some young adults that we've met, that we've talked to and gotten to know, that they were so beat down by their bullying, whether it came from a classmate or an adult. They were so beat down, they basically had trashed their own self-worth, and so they didn't feel like, I've got no grounds for complaint because I'm worthless anyway. And
so it's horrible. And so one of the first things we do, if parents, if you've most of the time when I'm coaching parents that are transitioning into homeschool with healing, whether it's stress, anxiety, they've had a mental health crisis, please don't get caught up in the books. Take time to build your child, build their self-esteem, their worth. There's so much you can do. We've actually put together workbooks for parents so they can understand everything from sexting and online and cyberbullying and gaming bullying, but how to work their child through finding their healing again, finding their worth. We use things like $100 bills for finding our worth. We use black light treatments where we actually have our kits that we can they can write them out invisible and then show the black lights to show the pain is still deep inside. We help introduce things like music and even playlists when they're broken down. Mental health of the kids who are bullied is a huge problem. And when your brain and your mind is in trauma, you cannot think about your next apologia science class. You just can't. The brain has to have time to heal, and you'll get there. But work on things that are beautiful, that finding how God created them, the talents, the gifts. What do they love, right? What are they passionate about? And just let them dive into that. Unit study a while.
Can we address for a moment? I will never forget sitting in a conference talking to a family that was considering homeschooling. Their child had been severely bullied to the point of kids at school holding him underwater, poking their pins in his back. He had scars all over his back. And the father's response, and he clearly loved his child, he said, I don't want to take him out because he's got to learn to stand up to bullies. Right. He's got to learn to be strong. And it broke my heart because that child needed a safe place, needed help first.
Yeah.
Before they could
I was actually
ever begin
looking.
To stand up.
Yeah, I was actually looking. So we addressed that, and I don't know how much, I can't find it, but we actually have a program that we work with kids in. So what I find many times is the dads say they'll drop them off at like a martial arts place or a different place, like learn self-defense, get, find a karate, find something. And so teaching kids, it is not their fault that this has happened. We teach them how to work through what is bullying, how to deal with their own pain. And we do at the same time approach the dad's concerns of you need to learn to do this. But when we start talking to them about, would you really give your daughter that advice if she had beaten and came home with you with scars all over her body? Would you sit in front of her and send her back home?
Yeah.
Is it any different for your son or daughter at the age because of who's doing the type of abuse? You have to really break down how much damage is there to that person. And so we do take care of practical things, like if you're ever physically attacked, which is 20% of bullying, how do you get out of it? What are things you can do, taking back your power? But we also teach people how to not become a victim again. Targets, and not really, you're going to deal with it in life, but hardening a target, teaching people head up, shoulders up, confidence, looking in direction, that people don't mess with a certain type of attitude that's going to come across, because the bullies aren't looking for a fight. They don't really want you to get engaged. They want to push you around and they want to get that thrill.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the best studies I love is, I don't know if you've ever seen the criminal, like a criminal, they'll show a parking lot and they can tell you who's going to be the one to get robbed. It's their body language. It's the same thing for our kids who are bullied. It is not their fault, but many times we can help teach them small things: head up,
Yes.
shoulders back, confidence, how to approach something, how to say firmly no, or how to deflect it when there's an engagement that can move them along. And a lot of times these kids need some help with those skills, but they
Yes.
can't do it in the place that they're continuing to be abused. And
You know what?
sometimes it can take up to 2 years that we find before a kid's at a place that they're
Yeah.
You know,
ready to
that's,
kind of re-engage.
I'm glad you talked about that because, you know, I hear people complaining that, you know, telling, for example, young women how to keep themselves safe, you know, in public, saying, well, you're just blaming victims. And no,
No.
you know what? This is no different. I'm thinking this is no different than teaching your child to wear shoes to walk across the broken gravel in the driveway because it's going to hurt your feet.
And some
And it's
people,
not your fault.
well,
But
and some people are going to look and see that and know that, and other people are going to have to be taught it. You know, we tell our kids that people are kind of like chickens. They
yeah,
peck on whoever they perceive to be weak or different. And
Very much so,
so,
the pecking order. Absolutely.
so you need to learn to walk around like the big rooster.
And
Because
here's actually
if you fluff out your feathers and strut around, people are less likely to peck on you.
So I did a really cute video. I think it was about a year ago. We were raising baby chickens here, and there was this one chicken who was getting bullied and pecked to death, and we took him out. And it took a while to get him healed. As soon as I returned him back to the pack, he started attacking the other ones because that's what he knew. And so when we have our children home, we have to not only help them deal with where they are and get them hardened, but sometimes our kids will retaliate, bully, or start trying that on because there's so much broken pain. There's so much hurt. I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me. Yeah. And we need to deal with that too. And so even in our chickens, as you mentioned, if you put them back in and they haven't really slowly, and what we do is slowly, I'm sure you've noticed, chicken, put 2 of them together and like that one, like slowly, and then we can integrate. And then he's like, oh, okay, not every chicken's going to eat my left leg off. You know, you have to slowly reassess. And homeschooling is such a beautiful way to not only help a child heal, but slowly integrate back into healthy places where there's normally a fairly consistent group of healthy, balanced children. And if they're not, their parents are there watching them,
are there,
telling them to knock it
out. Yeah.
Right? It's not like, you know.
It really, it's a tremendous healing place. I do want to address you just a minute because we're running out of time. And Candice, we could talk to you for days.
You know, we do lots of workshops and talking, so I can talk for days.
Yeah.
So you probably have to cut me off.
One thing I do want to mention is, yes, you got to teach your kids how to stand up, but first you have to heal them and get them strong. And that means sometimes, in fact, generally, you've got to remove them from the situation. And that's really hard for a Christian who's built into their church.
It's very hard with the church. It's very hard with your community. Guys, sometimes it's extended cousins. Sometimes it's family members that you're having to deal with. It is not always an outside thing you can fully remove. And being very careful, even if you bring them back in, where you're putting your children, because that damage is so done. 10-year-olds, starting at 10 now, the second leading cause of death is suicide at 10.
Oh, that's 10. Horrible.
It is a horrible number, and we are not insulated by that. And when you have a child who's already down, it does not take much. It takes very little for that confidence to just be broken and hit again. It's the psychological thing. And if they've been hurt here and you take them to another place and they're hurt again, they start to feel that it's them, that it's all them.
And that's what we really have to grasp is this is a life-threatening situation.
Yes.
This is something you could lose your child over. And
very much so.
You know,
I have a Facebook group full of those parents who have lost their children.
Educational venues to save your child's life? Yes. Would you change churches to save your child's life? Yes. And so we've got to be willing to take our children out, get them safe, get them healed, and then teach them better. You know, to remind them that this is not the way that believers act, that you don't want anyone to feel the way that you're feeling, that at some point you're going to be the one with the power. How are you going to use your power for good and not for evil?
How's our time? Because I don't see
We
the
are
time here.
out of time.
Are
We are
because
at 32.
I have other things that I want to talk with Candice about.
I
Maybe
know,
we
Well,
need
we'll
to do it
schedule
on
2.0 another day.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it, because
really
I
talk
did.
a lot on bullying, so I can.
Well,
I would
Candice,
love to help just our parents. I think if our parents can't understand, if this conversation makes you uncomfortable, or we start talking about things like sexting or abuse or things, you're not equipped to help your child. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
If you can't have the conversation with the adults, you probably aren't the one who's going to be able to help your kid through it. So we
And
need
so
to
you gotta,
help you get
you've got
there,
to become
right?
the one that
You've
can help your
got to work
child.
on that. God
Now,
gave you these children.
Candice,
He knows what you need.
bulliedbrokenredeemed.com. Tell us
Mhm.
where they can find you on social media.
Yes. So actually, same Facebook group, bulliedbrokenredeemed.com. Just join our Facebook group. I do lives there all the time. I have a very free for any parents that need it. Guys, you're going to find parents in there who have lost their children to suicide. So you're going to find parents there when you're having a problem. They can give you what we wish we would have known or wish we would have done. You're also going to find parents who are in the thick of it, who are needing some support, right? I mean, I have boys. Some of them are going to have, and I definitely train lots on girls. But when other parents are in the thick of it and can give you support, there's a community there to help you. We also have all of our books, our parent books, our journals. They're all on Amazon. You can buy them on Amazon. And we are in the middle of transferring everything to digital onlines too, with the way things are going. So depending on the day, those might be up there on Kindle and downloads.
And they can find your
just reach out.
resources at your website, right?
At my website, yep.
Mhm.
A lot. I think everything's up there, and we have kits that we sell that have all the things in them from our $100, our values, using black lights. Our full kits there too. But
Excellent.
you know, we really want to help the homeschool community tackle this so that we're all kind of hardening and preparing our children for what the future is to come. So.
And let's say, okay, need to say this for those who are just listening to the audio on the podcast. Bullied, Broken, Redeemed. That's BULLIED. Bullied, Broken, Redeemed. And of course, if you're watching this on the video, you can see that nicely put up on the sign.
And as we close, I want to encourage parents that this is something that your child can heal from and overcome. I've met Candice's son, and he's awesome. We have children that have been bullied and are now godly, strong Christian men. And so I just want to encourage you, this is something that you can get through, that your child can get through, that you can get through, and that the Lord can bring good out of in the end. You know, I see that in Candice's family, that the enemy meant it for evil and broke their family, but it's been redeemed, and now their family is ministering to others. And so I want to encourage you that there's hope, and that there's redemption, and there's forgiveness, and there's restoration.
There's more than hope. There's so much more than hope. They can thrive. They can find passion, and what the devil is intended for evil, God will redeem in beauty.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Candice Duggar from Bullied, Broken, Redeemed. You can find the website, bulliedbrokenredeemed.com. And we'll put that in the show notes too.
And you can always find our stuff at raisingrealmen.com, a podcast at halandmelanie.com/radio. If you'd like to have us speak, you can find it at halandmelanie.com. And you can contact Candice about speaking at bulliedbrokenredeemed.com. Thank you for joining us.
We do
Thank you so much. Bye, Candice.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye now.